year because of our 9 committees that have wonderful volunteers. But I would say our signature events are the Forester Street Cleanup, the annual home tour, which just passed in early May, Lemonade Day, which is in August, and then our charity date auction.
Okay. Will?
Will Post with Lancaster Young Professionals. Right now, to kind of piggyback off of that and jump right into the membership count, we're at about 150 dues paying members right now. We peaked a couple of years ago around 230 and started to drift back down. Right now we get about 7 to 8 renewals per month and about 8 new signups per month. So we anticipate some growth. We're using some of the same strategies that HYP has done. We're not specifically trying to membership drive right now, but just trying to build out our programming by adding daytime events and professional development events to build out our content beyond more of a social and networking theme. We do have talks in the works for a fall event to specifically focus on driving membership and really highlighting existing membership, but that'll be the first sort of membership drive that we've done for LYP. So.
Okay. Ivy?
Well, the West Shore Young Professionals actually just launched in January, and to date we have 50 members. We have 5 corporate membership packages, and membership obviously is important to us right now, but it's more about promotion. It's more about having individual conversations with people around the community and letting them know all the services that we offer. And we're asking our current members to give us feedback on the programming that we are offering. We have our programs booked through the rest of the year, and we will be continuing to ask feedback to make sure that our next fiscal year is aligned with our mission.
Bethany?
Bethany Hauser, the Lebanon Valley Young Professionals. Right now we're actually at about 75 members. The Lebanon Valley Young Professionals is run through the Lebanon Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it was actually brought to the Chamber by Peg Kreiser about 6 years ago. And it's taken off and grown and sort of evolved over the years, but that's always sort of gone in line with staff changes or if somebody has left or come to the chamber. I am also in charge of the membership, and our membership has grown. We've had about 6 or 7 new members come on this year. We have a few more that will be attending our event next week. And we have monthly networking events. We were just participating in fundraising for the Relay for Life. And we're working on professional development programs, and we're lucky because we can use the chamber offices for that and also utilize some of the resources. We do not have corporate sponsors, but we do have a lot of participation from organizations like Jonestown Bank and Trust. They are also, or JBT, and they also have several employees that are very active in the Young Professionals.
Okay. Dylan?
Dylan Bauer with York Young Professionals. We have, in York, we have about 120 active members. We've seen a decline in years prior. I think a lot of that has to do with the increased number of opportunities, maybe a change in social media for young professionals and what they can do. But we've recently seen a spike in our membership. We're seeing about 7 new members per month, 5 in the renewal area. This year we've taken a realignment to our socials and really focused on our networking locations to not be as much of the typical restaurant or bar, but to places that you normally could not go. I mentioned earlier before this that we had our social last evening at the York Revolution Baseball Stadium and took batting practice. So we're trying to incorporate different opportunities that our young professionals can be involved in that are not what you can normally get into.
Shannon?
And I'm Shannon Fonestock with the Carlisle Young Professionals. We currently have just shy of 100 paid members, but we do have 750 on our email list. We are actively trying to promote and grow our membership. We currently only have 1 corporate sponsorship, which is Volvo. That was just something that we didn't start off strong with. We wanted to focus on the individuals that were looking, more for the development in the community. So we are developing some more additional information and corporate sponsorships availability. And we've also kind of recently, within the past year, taken the same approach as York, where we're doing less of the standard mixer. You go to a bank or a bar and just stand around. We had a great mixer at Warm Springs Spa just Wednesday night. We had over 50 people there, so we're averaging about 30 to 50 per event. That was one of our higher attended ones. So we're trying to make them a little more interactive. You got makeup touch-ups and nails, and we actually had just as many men there as we had females. So we're just kind of trying to make it a little more rounded organization.
What, as far as the mix is, so members that are coming maybe just for sports or just for other social events versus others that are involved in a cross section of committees. I mean, can you talk about, the involvement that a lot of these folks may have in multiple committees and what kind of impact that has on your communities?
Sure. I think, and I think I'm a pretty good example of, in terms of HYP.
Sure.
When you first get involved, I left college, started at the bank, and when I started at the bank in 2008, they had a dodgeball team, and I played soccer in college, so I had no idea how I would play in a sport where you used your hands, not your feet. So I started playing in dodgeball, and then I got to know some people by just attending the post bar or the post game bar. And from there, I joined the outreach committee, and then I joined the board, and then I kind of worked the executive positions as well. And I think that the really neat thing is that we offer these opportunities that are kind of an easier transition into the organization, something as simple as playing a sport with some of your peers after work. But you really start to see the ripple effect of what HYP does in the city, and you want to be a part of that, and you want to help volunteer maybe with youth, or you want to do a cleanup. And so those things kind of get people sticky, is the term we use in banking. And when you get them sticky and they get to know what you are and the true ripple effect of the organization, then they want to stay and help out in other areas.
Are you guys all seeing a little bit of that? The folks that have come out for a social event, they want to be involved in other things that you guys may already be thinking about. Another committee looks to do a city beautification project, or they want to raise money for another project downtown. How do you get them to realize that there are other opportunities?
Well, actually working with the chamber, when I came onto the chamber, I received some emails from some of our members, like LCCM or Jubilee Ministries, who were interested in whether or not we are going to follow suit with Harrisburg and other locations with city beautification. And since the chamber is working so closely with the City of Lebanon with their Grow Lebanon 2020 initiative, we are looking to work with these nonprofit organizations in order to do that. But I did take a note from your book when I started, and I organized a night at the YMCA. It was actually the YMCA's idea to work with us, but I was already thinking about that. And we did a dodgeball volleyball night, and it brought out different members, people who were members of the LVYP but hadn't necessarily come out to mixers. We also invited some folks who were working out in the main room to just come on down to the gym, and we played dodgeball until we were sore. And it was great because it was a different type of networking, but it really allowed us to team build without having a structured team. We created our own teams, and I think it really opened some doors. So things that other young professionals groups are doing are resonating, I think, throughout the whole region.
And I think, just on that point, I think that sometimes it's really nice to meet people in a different environment, and then you still talk about work, you still talk about what you're doing, but you're in a more relaxed setting. And I think for young professionals, they're looking for that. They're looking for something that is not necessarily what they would get at a regular chamber mixer or something that they go to for work. So they can go to our YP groups and see, if I go play kickball, it doesn't have to be a sport, but if I go to a cleanup or a spa, I may get to know someone I know or someone I don't know, and then translate that into a working relationship.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, we've been focusing in LYP over the past year on the path of a member and how that membership evolves over time. So you get a lot of people who either come in from out of town, or maybe they're new in their business, they just graduated from college. And they come out to just kind of check things out, maybe make some friends, maybe just build their network because they're trying to sell something. So they come out to the social networking events and they get to know people. And I agree, for me, the longer I go to the social events, the more casual certain people will become, and they'll get to know you. Get to know them on a different level. We had one of our lawyers came out last night. He's an executive, and it's the first time I've seen him in jeans. And it was neat. I kind of busted his chops a little bit for being casual, and we get to know each other a little better. So things like that happen. And as they get more comfortable with the organization, they tend to either go into committee volunteering or to our community service volunteering, oftentimes both. We have a very robust community service committee with about 8 to 10 community service partners that we're always promoting to go volunteer with. So, they take that extra step, they get involved with the community, they're giving back in that fashion, or giving back to LYP, and then they move from there into leadership, either leading the committees they've joined or, moving into the executive level with LYP. So those relationships get more sticky as time goes on, and they stick around, they get more involved in the community, more invested in the community. And it's a neat thing to see. So
yeah, it sounds like you guys are really learning a lot from, you borrow ideas from other groups a little bit. There's a lot of overlap in the type of programs that you're providing and opportunities you're providing. I'm wondering, is there other opportunities to actually cross as far as membership go? Do you have a lot of members who are maybe part of multiple YP groups, and how does that work?
We do, and I know we were talking about this a little before, but we welcome that. So whether it's one of our members is already a member of another YP group or a member with one of our confirmed partners like the West Shore Chamber, the Perry Chamber, we actually offer a discounted membership because we want to see ourselves as a complement to what other organizations have to offer.
We also have a lot that are a part of HYP, especially a lot of our sports leagues. We try to really pay attention to HYP's events, not schedule them the same night, not run our sports leagues at the same time, because we share a lot of members back and forth from both the social aspect and the sports aspect. And it's worked out well for us. And I know in the past we had kind of talked about with HYP about maybe doing some kind of a, discount for members, and that just hasn't quite gotten to that point yet, but it's definitely been in the talks and something that could happen in the future. Because I think especially with West Shore, HYP, and Carlisle, we're all in a pretty close, tight-knit community. A lot of our members live on the West Shore. We recently partnered with the Shippensburg Chamber as well to do some events down there. So we have more of a wide-spanning membership base here.
And Leadership Cumberland just had a mixer the other night, and they invited the local YP groups, and I think you were there. I know several of our members and board members were there too.
Okay. Do you identify, like, if you're living in a certain area but working in another, like, living in York, working in Harrisburg, whatever, maybe the reverse, do you identify more with one YP group, or do you identify with both? Does it, do you see more folks wanting to be part of everything because they really believe in the entire region and what it, they don't want to just focus on, the place that they go to work. They want to be able to do a little bit in both.
I think to kind of tie together what we've said, and the benefit of a YP group is not always you have the business networking, but I've also seen couples come out of a YP group, which is pretty cool. So yeah, perhaps if you live in York and then you work in Harrisburg, there may be a benefit to both. And it is a non-forceful networking that we as young professionals are in this constant networking mode. But at a YP organization or YP networking function, you don't feel that you have to get the business card out right away. Yeah. So I think that's the big benefit of young professional groups, and joining more than one is probably a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, kind of like chambers or other groups you might
Sure.
already be a part of, right? I mean, you're already identifying with that because of your company's associated with it, so you associate with it. Then maybe the same thing happens with the YPs. You kind of have another network you can turn to, even if you're not going to be active, all the time. You might get out there monthly or whatever, just to be, show a face here in this community too, and try to make a difference or meet a new contact in your industry, right?
Right.
There are a lot of the young professionals in Lebanon Valley Young Professionals that are active in other areas of the chamber. You mentioned leadership. We have Leadership Lebanon Valley, so there's a lot of crossover there. But from what I've seen of the most active members at LVYP, for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect, they are going out to Lancaster, they're going to Harrisburg, they're traveling, they're open to those ideas, and would certainly be open to traveling, or they wouldn't hesitate to invite somebody to, hey, why don't you come out to our mixer, or some of you mentioned committees. We're a little small, so I think we operate as a committee, but that doesn't stop people from saying, hey, we're having a Dress for Success 5K this weekend, why don't you come out, or can you help spread the word, or we were very active, some of our members were active as part of their personal passions for Relay for Life or the American Cancer Society. So we do that. We're all open to going out into other places and inviting people to come in with us. But I would say that the Lebanon Valley, the young professionals through the chamber are just even more excited to do that. Or go-getters.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed, kind of take a different angle on that question, is that the folks that I've seen that tend to maybe focus on one group tend to work maybe in that area. Maybe they live in Lancaster, but they work in Harrisburg, or they work in York. And the timing of the events typically for these tends to be the evening, so that they'll look at what time they're going to get out of work. They're going to drive home for an LYP event that they're going to miss half of, or are they going to hang out in Harrisburg and stay for the Harrisburg Young Professionals event instead? So I've heard that folks will make their decision based on that. We've got folks that live outside of Lancaster but work in Lancaster. They'll stick around for the mixer, and then they'll go home afterwards, which is wherever they might live. So, for that side of the story, they tend to, play where they work as opposed to where they live when it comes to the YP groups.
And we've seen the same thing, so we tried to remedy that by planning our, so we have monthly programs, so every other month we have it over lunch, and then we provide lunch and welcome we host it at different places around Cumberland County. So at some point, it's going to be convenient for everyone.
Right.
To provide that variety.
Okay, all right. Wanted to kind of jump back to some more of the real estate questions that I was thinking about here. We always hear about the walkable urban, lifestyle, the communities that young professionals, millennials associate with. Is that true? I mean, are you guys seeing that? Are your communities meeting the needs? That we see a lot of mixed development projects, pop up, a lot of redevelopment projects in a lot of our urban areas here. Are those areas doing enough? For young professionals as far as meeting the needs for housing and other amenities that you all want?
I think as a whole, my day job, I'm a real estate developer, so I look at trends as far as millennials as a whole and then empty nesters resurging into the urban environment. So I think not just in central Pennsylvania region, but everywhere, we are going to see an increase in urban dwellings. That said, that spurs growth, activity, and young professionals come right with it. So my company, we're putting online in the next 2 years 45 market rate apartments, which I know already there's a lot of people that are desiring that kind of location to have the walkable city. I think as a whole in the area, we have our growth in the cities have changed. So young professionals, I think, coming into the cities, which I think all of our YP groups are city-centric, in a sense, will help all of our organizations just in that structure alone. So I'm excited about what we have ahead just in the whole region in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Harrisburg and Lancaster, a lot of similar type projects. There's a lot of incentives, a lot of things to get additional development investment in your communities, and that does have a long-term impact. And what can you speak to your individual communities and what kind of impact it's had so far, and where do you see it going?
Sure. I think for Harrisburg City, I mean, obviously HYP is really focused on the city and promoting the city and city living, and so we have a committee that focuses on that, and through that committee they run the annual home tour, which this year was at Italian Lake. We toured 11 homes, big after party, but the goal of that event and what we try to get our members to see is that event is really fun, but the benefit of that is a donation into the Home in the City program. And the Home in the City program gives out $1,000 grants to HYP members who are purchasing their primary residence in the city. So since the program's inception, we've given out $40,000, which means 40 homes that HYP members have purchased. And homes is, condo, but they've purchased it in the city, and that's a really big deal for us. And so if we're able to reward our members for taking advantage of all that the city offers through something as simple as the Home in the City program, it's a really impactful program. We deal a lot with the local developers just in terms of sponsorships and understanding what they are looking for, because we're really, like you said, the millennials is the demographic that developers are looking for right now, especially for that urban lifestyle. And whether it be WCI or Brickbox and some of those other big ones in Harrisburg, they're doing these projects that really speak to YPs. So they're taking an existing beautiful building on Front Street and they're renovating it into condos. And people want that. And maybe it's empty nesters, but I know it's a lot of YPs too. We do like a civic survey each year, so we kind of poll our membership and say, what's going on? Did we do a good job? Is the city doing a good job? Where can we be better? And 90% of the people that respond say that they live in the city because they want the urban lifestyle. And so to me, that speaks to how great Harrisburg or York and Lancaster and all these other regions can be. But we can attract that talent and consider ourselves an urban city center, even though I went to school in Philadelphia and I loved Philly. But when I came home, I still found what I was looking for in Harrisburg. And it's a matter of promoting what we do have and showcasing that in the best light.
Yeah, obviously Lancaster, a lot of projects going on.
Lancaster does have a
downtown.
lot of projects going on. They've spent a lot of time over the past year studying affordable housing and how to make that happen in Lancaster. They recognize there's going to be a great need for it over the next 5 years, and they can either capitalize on that opportunity and put affordable housing in place, or they can miss the boat and watch the millennials flow out to other areas. I know that from a renting standpoint, it can be more difficult right now to find affordable housing in Lancaster City. Just from speaking with some of the folks that I interact with on a daily basis, it actually seems easier to buy affordable housing in Lancaster. If you're buying a single-family home, I've heard better feedback for that. So I think that's what Lancaster and the planners are focusing on is creating a more affordable rental dwelling so that they can attract the folks that maybe don't want to put down really permanent roots yet, but still want to live in that city. I know Lancaster's spending a lot of time on walkability right now as well. They're studying changing a lot of the one-way streets back to two-way streets to slow people down and stop that weaving of traffic in and out. So it's a little safer to bike and walk through the city. They're starting with Mulberry Street this year, and they'll move out from there as they publish their studies and get the approval on that. So,
Okay.
And that definitely is important to the YPs. I mean, when we're in the city, we get all the city dwelling YPs, and they come walking out from their dwellings to come and hang out where we are in the city. And the further you get away from the city, the less attendance you get, because people do like being able to walk and and then afterwards being able to walk, maybe do an after event somewhere else. Get together with a few people, go to a different bar,
Yeah.
Or go to a bar. So
What's the trickle down to, like, say Carlisle, to other parts of the West Shore? I mean, you all identify, with the Harrisburg region, so some of what's going on in the city does carry over to the smaller boroughs and other suburban, townships. Are you seeing similar kind of investment or projects that are geared specifically to, your members?
Well, I would say our members right now, a lot of them have had experiences living in bigger cities. West Shore doesn't offer, something similar to Harrisburg City, but they're at different stages of their life, and they're looking for those single-family homes. They're looking for those townhomes with a little land, and from our membership, that's what they're looking for right now. But they appreciate the accessibility of the local cities. They like that they can jump on the highway and they're in Lancaster in half an hour, 40 minutes, and you cross the river and there's Harrisburg and all the wonderful opportunities over there. But then they can go home and then they have their little patch of yard and their privacy.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a very different dynamic than Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster, and we're trying to embrace that. Whenever we started in 2012, we focused a little more on the walkability. All of our events were right downtown, and if we tried to go outside of the borough of Carlisle, our turnouts were terrible. We're understanding now, in order to grow as an organization, Carlisle does have limited housing. There's a couple redevelopment plans going on now that probably within the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to be getting 400 plus townhouses at one location, and then another location, some single family homes, condos, and townhouses. But even those are not necessarily going to be directly walkable to downtown. The one will be with a little bit of a walk, and the other one is drivable. So we're just kind of really embracing the looking into the bigger community, expanding out a little more towards our folks in West Shore, our folks, in Shippensburg. We held an event down in Shippensburg in April. We were a little hesitant to do so, to see how the turnout would be, and we had about 35 people there. So our members are getting a little more willing to travel, and we're just kind of embracing that Carlisle will never be a York, Lancaster, or Harrisburg. And we're making it work for us, and then being able to get involved in a greater community using that.
Lebanon, I mean, obviously you've got, breweries and other things popping up there too. I mean, it's not like it's not happening everywhere. So what are you guys seeing in your downtown?
Well, that's the thing. I think that all of our young professionals, all of the people who live in the Lebanon Valley, got used to driving around fairly easily, because there was this feeling that maybe there's nothing to do in Lebanon, and I think a lot of people just sort of grew accustomed to that misconception. But what we're seeing, and what we've seen over the past few years, is that there really is a lot to do in Lebanon. Certainly our young professionals don't mind driving to a really nice little town like Annville. It's historic, it's quaint, they have some good stuff. Great winery, Adams Vintners. They have good restaurants like Bad Dorf. There's the theater. They can go down to Gretna Theater. Myerstown, I know they're looking to revamp and rebuild, but they have a lot of cool stuff going on too. But the government in the city of Lebanon and the businesses in Lebanon that are opening up, Foundry Craft Brewery just opened up on top of the farmers market. We have Snitz Creek. We have a lot of vibrant cultural shops and restaurants that are there. And in August, we're really excited to welcome Hidden Still, which is a craft distillery. So I know that the YPs, they don't mind driving around, but I think they're looking forward to the promise of a more walkable Lebanon, because a lot of people who maybe went out and did other things have come back to Lebanon, and they're really investing in that culture. They're saying, hey, there's stuff to do here. And I think our young professionals are a big part of that. They're excited about it, and they're excited to see what's going on in the city.
Yeah,
So.
I was wondering that, like, how do you, folks that maybe grew up around here, went off to school, how do you bring them back? How do you, what the quality of life issues, what are they attracted to that's going to bring them back here, other than, maybe it's a job opportunity, but why are they coming back, and how do you get them to stay then too?
Well, the Lebanon Valley does have a lot of opportunity for affordable housing. I live in the northern part of the county. I live in Jonestown, so they have affordable single-family homes or townhomes where you can have that patch of land. You can have your kids walk to school. There are parks. But there's something about the Lebanon Valley where a lot of people say, going to go to college and then I'm going to move away. And then a couple years later, they come back. My husband and I are a good example of that. He said, I'm not going to move back. And then after a year and a half, we moved back. He's from Anvil. I'm from New Jersey, and so I'm used to people going out and saying, I'm going to move elsewhere, going to a bigger city. But in Lebanon, people are really in love with the strong ties to the community, I think. So they come back, and it's becoming more accessible, I think.
Okay. Well,
You know, for lack of a better word, I think Lancaster's just become very cool. You know, there's a lot of neat stuff happening in Lancaster. Talking about craft distillery, we've got a craft distillery that opened. Now they've got a craft beer brewery in the same place. We've got a great venue in Tellus 360 downtown, which has evolved in just crazy ways over the past 5 years, from being a reclaimed furniture shop to being a really cool music venue. You know, we've got the Fulton Theater, which is neat if you want a classier night. And we got a ton of other great bars, restaurants, and venues in downtown Lancaster that weren't there 10 years ago. So you get people who are maybe younger and they spent time in the city because they came to college here and they're sticking around because Lancaster's great. And you find people who maybe moved back here to settle with their families. Our current vice president moved away for most of his 20s, and he's back in Lancaster now raising his family, and he's just in love with Lancaster, what it's become. And he grew up in township and couldn't wait to get out. You know, so it's become a very vibrant scene downtown, and that keeps the YPs around and interested in staying around.
okay. What are you guys hearing at HYP? Like, why are people coming back? You know,
I think that's like not even just a question for our YP groups. Every corporate partner we work with asks us the same question: how do we get people back here, or how do we keep them here if they're here for an internship or just an entry-level job? How do we make them stay? I think it's a really interesting question. I think there are a variety of answers. I think first, HYP has been has benefited from all the local schools in the area. So even, like Carlisle, I'm sure Dickinson is a great resource for you guys. We have so many local colleges, and for us, outreach to those has been important. Get people early, get them excited about what HYP is and what the city of Harrisburg offers. I also think it's encouraging to see some of those corporate partners like the Harrisburg Chamber and Cretic, who has always been a good friend to HYP. They have a brand new website that talks solely about this topic, how to make Harrisburg what you want it to be, and they've seen a big push from some of their corporate partners, whether they be chamber members or otherwise, that have contributed to that website and directly post listings back and forth between the website. And so I think that, for me, I think jobs is what gets people here. So we have to make sure that we have the jobs. I think we're doing a better job of it. Obviously, Harrisburg City, as the capital city, is always going to have jobs. But I think we could always do a better job of increasing jobs in the general central PA region. And I think that once they come here for those jobs, I think that it's up to us as YP groups to offer attractive programming or opportunities or highlight what the city has. So for instance, Harrisburg has obviously been in the papers for a lot of different topics over the past couple of years, some good, some bad. I think that recently we've seen a huge renaissance, and we see Restaurant Row really taking a new turn. We have the Hilton with brand new, face of their restaurants. We have brand new restaurants popping up all around that area up through Midtown. We also have a brand new brewery downtown, and we also have the Susquehanna Art Museum. So we have all these different things that Harrisburg is doing, and I think that all of those along that urban living trend, and even just, the drivability between the shores, all of those are really good reasons to keep people here. So I think getting them here is primarily jobs, and then I think it's up to us to help keep them here.
I agree with that.
What about retail? I see a lot of restaurants and other things, but some of that niche retail or other things that, a lot of these communities say, after you get the housing and get some of these other things established, that you really need to, try to get, either really niche retail or really, you have to get other big national brands to buy into the downtowns because they're out in the suburbs. How do you do that? You guys focus on trying to get national brands, or is it really about the, the small local shops that, didn't exist in the downtown or haven't been there in 20 or 30 years, trying to get somebody else, a new generation, to open something?
I think the uniqueness of downtowns is that of the mom-pop startup shop or the local brand. And to that, the caveat to that is that national retailers choose not to go downtowns, often for shipping and receiving. The daytime population isn't strong enough for them. But frankly, that's not what, at least in York, what we want. We want the original coffee shop. We don't prefer Starbucks. We want something that's a little more authentic. And to Casey's point, and to the last question, I too went to school in Philadelphia, came back, and I identified with the downtown. with that market. So I think that the niche retailers is a reason that makes you want to come back. It makes you want to go see something. It's very fun for me to go to a First Friday in Lancaster and just check out what's going on and see the different retail stores and get ideas and things that you don't find in a mall. So it's a very important part to it.
Yeah. What about it? Anybody else want to weigh in on that as far as other reasons that people are maybe drawn to, or stay in an area? Is it other factors that maybe are keeping them here?
We try to focus more on the small town niche retail because they're the people that support our organization, and we want our members to in turn support them. You can go to any town or borough or city and have a Starbucks and a Walmart and a Target. We're looking for something that really makes us stand out, something that our members can't get even if they would go to a larger city. Part of our redevelopment plan that Carlisle is working on is a little shopping center type, it's going to be housing, it's going to be shopping, it's going to be, actually I think they're going to have a hotel there with access to the, the fairgrounds and the car shows, and we're trying to make the things that make Carlisle a little more of a focus point instead of just the things that every city has.
Okay.
I agree. The mom and pop shops are what give the West Shore the character. The West Shore Theater, the West Shore Market. Yes, you can't walk from one to the other, but a short driving distance, you appreciate the character a lot more.
Okay. What about career advancement or executive training, mentoring? I mean, you guys started a new program regarding, CEO Roundtable and, trying to bring folks in to, give perspective on what they went through. Can you guys talk a little bit about that in terms of, what are your members saying on that? Do they, do other groups want that? How is it working out for Harrisburg so far? And where does it go moving forward with those kind of opportunities that maybe, didn't exist because a lot of these groups have, are still fairly young and still evolving, still growing, and not totally sure, what other direction they can take at this point. So how is it working out for HYP, and then everybody else can weigh in a little bit on that.
Sure. The neat thing is I personally have kind of a strong allegiance to leadership development because when I was brought into HYP, I mentioned dodgeball and outreach, but I also chaired the Leadership Summit, which was a one-day summit drawn to people throughout the area, mostly YPs, and kind of crafted as a one-day event to come in and hone and develop your leadership skills. So we had a guest speaker, a keynote speaker, and then we had some breakout sessions, and it was a really great day at HU, Harrisburg University, using all these acronyms. But we have this year, so because of that, part of what I really wanted to do this year was grow that leadership arm. HYP's mission is to be a catalyst to make Harrisburg a better place to live, work, and play. But the second half is while developing and retaining future leaders. And so I really wanted to make sure that we didn't forget that part, because we always talk about live, work, and play. We launched this year a CEO Roundtable, as Jason mentioned, and we do bi-monthly speaker series, so we bring in kind of CEOs, like the top people. We started with Dave Black at the Chamber, but then we had Dan Schwab at D&H Distributing, and we have Mike Young from Pinnacle coming up in June. We have them booked throughout the year, like I said, bi-monthly. We have about 25 people that come and have breakfast with the CEO, and it's a very intimate setting, kind of like this, and they just ask questions, and they talk about best practices and what they're looking, maybe what their failures were and how they learned from their failures, or how they balance work and life. And it's a really interesting topic, and it's I think most encouraging for us as a leadership team to look and see there are so many. It sells out. We have to cap it at 25 due to space, and it sells out every single time, and it's booked throughout the year, and so people know who's coming up and know who they want to, get some FaceTime with, and so they get their RSVP in early. It doesn't cost anything, just your own breakfast, but it's nice to see that opportunity exists.
Yeah, good opportunity. What are you guys, others doing similar things or looking to do similar things this year in terms
We
of?
introduced a program called Connected, where it's similar to that, and incorporated it into our networking events. I think we're going to actually take an offshoot of that and make it more of an intimate setting, kind of like the HYP model. That is what our young professionals want. They enjoy the networking and the social time, but I think there's also a big part of that they're here to advance and to learn, and from failures and to successes. Let me ask you questions,
right,
and learn from you. It's the humility of a YP person that can do that is awesome, that you can take from that and go forward.
We have a similar series to both of your comments. It's called Tales from the Top. So we have someone who's a seasoned professional, and they come in and speak to our group. It's also, we have about 30 people that come each time, and they talk about their career path and how they had bumps in the road and what they learned from that. And it is very interactive. Our most recent Tales from the Top was at Rite Aid with their vice president. They host us in their boardroom, and we had a wonderful response from that. And then the alternative month, so that's every other month. And then the other months we have an educational workshop over lunch. And it's very purposeful. We want everyone to leave with a new skill and with a new connection.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think part of the upside of working through the chamber is that we have a lot of those programs. Like we're looking to have the CEO roundtable, but we have a small business roundtable and a nonprofit roundtable where people can come in and hear from people who are business leaders or nonprofit leaders, because there's a huge nonprofit sector and the young professionals are very active there. But we also have educational workshops and other networking events that give people an opportunity who are young professionals to come and explore those.
Okay. How about in Carlisle?
Yeah, we started out initially doing semi-annual leadership events, half-day events, both with the CEO as well as the skill development portion. Our membership didn't have a lot of flexibility, we've learned, within their schedules to allow them to do that. A lot of them are entry level, a lot of them, couldn't really get out midday. We tried it on a Saturday. We had about 20 to 25 people turn out, but we wanted more than that. So what we started doing this year is at choice mixers, depending on where they're held, we have the CEO come in and just do like a short 15 to 20 minute speech. We had the CEO of the Carlisle Regional Medical Center give a little talk on leading in times of change. We had the CEO of JFC Staffing just give a little talk on how he got to where he is. We incorporate that into one of our mixers, so it's kind of like a dual purpose event. We have a committee working on probably launching in January lunch and learns. We're debating if that's going to be bi-monthly or quarterly. And what we were thinking of doing is kind of what you all have talked about, one of which being a skill development at one of them, and the next one being more of a roundtable event. So that's in the process for us. We just hesitate to launch things until we're sure that we're going to have a good backing, because some of our other leadership events in the past didn't have the great of a turnout as what maybe the person leading it had hoped for, and we don't want to, disappoint our hosts or disappoint our members that, think that they're going to get a little more out of the session.
Do you think these sessions, these opportunities to come meet with a CEO for breakfast or another executive mentorship program, is it leading to folks being maybe folks that participate, better opportunities for promotions within their particular fields, or maybe even opportunities to take them, something related, like it really leads to a related career move or advancement in some way by engaging in these type of events? Maybe that connection you're making with that individual maybe helps you there get a foot in the door if you need it or you want it, but does it lead to other career advancement opportunities by participating in this stuff, or you think it will?
I think it makes it more tangible. It makes that success more tangible. If you can see that person and interact with that person, having that opportunity makes one more confident in his or her abilities to go out and really take the bull by the horns and succeed.
Certainly an indirect effect.
Yeah.
If you have breakfast with somebody and then you're sitting in the elevator lobby, hey Joe, and there's that great opportunity. That's, I think, what's very important to taking the next step. So any chance to network in that setting, I think, is a benefit.
Yeah, LYP's been chasing both paths to the mentorship and the professional development programming this year. We have a monthly professional development event, and I think the skills they learn, even though they're soft skills like time management and networking and negotiations and how to be an active leader in your organization, are skills that a lot of millennials are missing now, especially as you get more in the technological age where you get a lot of people who are face down on their phone, and these are things that are missed. So you get people, I think, that are bonding with their peers who are going to become resources to each other as time goes on. Like, they've gone through this common experience of learning, like, how do I manage my schedule? And as simple as it is, they bond, and then as the one person moves on, maybe they're going to be the tool that the other person can use to move on as well. And they're also spending time one-on-one with leaders through our mentorship program. And I think that's absolutely an opportunity. Anytime you're face-to-face with someone to learn from them, it's an opportunity for you to show who you are and for them to get to know who you are. And again, maybe get that leg up, in terms of finding another career, finding another work path, or getting a promotion internally if that was who you were mentoring with. I mean, I think there's no doubt that that gives you an opportunity to give yourself a leg up on the competition.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, do you think people from outside look at that, like they're considering moving to Central Pennsylvania? They see that there are a lot of diverse industry here. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of different paths they can take, but they also look at it and they say, I see there's opportunity here for me to not just move there, but advance there, to grow there, to be there long term. I mean, is that something people from outside are looking at when they're considering a move to Central PA or moving back? They know that there's going to be those opportunities to grow here?
I absolutely think so. I mean, I know that there have been studies done with young professionals or younger folks that talk about how we job hop a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
That there's less loyalty to a corporation. You're going to find less people with 40-year tenure, at the end of that career path. For us, as you'll find with the generation that came before us. So to have so many diverse industries in Central Pennsylvania, to have so many opportunities to be exposed to everybody in those industries, I think is very, very appealing to them.
And I think that another big part of Harrisburg City and Central PA as a whole is the sense of community that is in this region. And I think that what that translates into is exposure. And so you think, Harrisburg is the capital city, and it's a pretty decent sized city for our area, but it is a small city. And so when you talk about the opportunities I personally take advantage of mentors, and I know that a lot of other people on my leadership team do as well, because how best to grow but by learning from someone who's already maybe stumbled a little bit, as we talked about. But I think that the exposure to who those mentors are is much greater in a city the size of Harrisburg, or even York, Lancaster, some of our other ones, because you are getting a one-on-one with Mike Young, who runs Pinnacle. Are you really going to get that same opportunity to sit with 24 other people in a setting like this and talk to the CEO of a hospital in Philly? I don't know that you would. So the exposure here to the people that make kind of those bigger decisions and the opportunity to learn from them is much greater, and I think that's part of that question and plays into it, because if they are coming back and they do have a job that maybe is entry level, they have opportunities through our groups to meet with people that really have an impact on the region.
Well, I think the upcoming generation too likes to be able to be exposed to industries that are different than their own. Because I'm sure I'm not alone in the feeling sometimes that the people that came before me in my own industry did things a certain way, and things don't work that same way now. Things are different, right? Yeah, exactly. The way that the producers who came before me is not the way I can grow my business. So to find input from an industry that has nothing to do with mine is valuable. They have valuable life skills that aren't tainted by how they think I should be doing my job, because they did my job and were successful at it in their way. So I think that helps a lot.
And opportunities like that allow us to kind of accomplish the shared goal I think that we all have, is getting people to feel connected to the community. And whenever they feel connected to the community, they're less likely to look for opportunities elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Because it comes down to that, well, I already know, Mike Young, the CEO of Pinnacle, and I've already sat down and met with this other CEO, and if I would move to Chicago, I'm not gonna have the opportunity to do that. So while this job opportunity out there might look a little bit better for now, I know long term, this local area and the connections I'm building here are gonna benefit me more long term.
Tying that into the young professional that is now community minded and prefers to live downtown, we are in this upswing where all millennials are getting married later. They are having more expendable income to a later time. The class of '73 was the largest graduating high school class of its time until 2010, and it's been beat every year since then with a higher graduating class. And that giant force of people is coming through, getting married later, spending more money in the downtown environment, looking for more opportunities, looking for more community, and coming back home after college. So kind of tying these questions together, it's exciting to hear, because it is what we are. We become community focused, and we don't want to necessarily own. We want to live in the areas that our young professional groups support, or that we support that area. So,
absolutely.
Okay.
And just continuing with that, our membership is really looking at each other as the best resource. And even though I say that, we still recognize that the seasoned professionals still have some amazing wisdom to bestow on us. So we actually created an advisory board. So I meet with them twice a year and tell them what our group is doing, all the wonderful things we have coming up, and they share what they see from their young professionals that they work with, what skills that they hope the next round of young professionals will have, and we take that guidance back to our board to help us plan our programming. And what we found are those seasoned professionals are excited. They want to sit at the table. They want to have input. They want to help the younger generation. And we're very excited about that extra component.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more. We're in the same position in that they want to be asked to do something. They want to be asked to help because they see the value in keeping YPs in this area. And so if we are the up and coming talent, and that's a wonderful platform for them to say, how can we help you and how can we help keep the talent here?
Yeah, we've had some key partners from Leadership Lancaster and United Way Lancaster and Millersville University, among other places, sitting on our advisory board, and it's just they're so excited to get back, and it's been hugely advantageous to have them on that board, giving us some guidance.
Okay. Switch focus a little bit. Thinking about local government, state government, obviously a new administration, and you're all in business, and obviously a lot of folks are in business as well. But what's your biggest expectation you either you or your organization has out of your local government, your city, your borough, your state officials, and some of the things that they're maybe looking to do that could have an impact on what you do or your communities? I mean, as it relates to not just taxes, but other incentives that they've pushed. I mean, we've all the CRIS in Lancaster, and there's always some other economic development tools that they're considering. What kind of expectations do you have of those local elected officials and what they're doing, and how does it impact you? Do YPs you focus a lot on those other issues that are potentially going to negatively impact you in some way?
We're focusing a little bit more right now in Carlisle is getting our young members involved a little more just in the election process and in learning more about our local government. We have, for the past 2 elections, partnered with the Carlisle Chamber as well as Dickinson College and a couple of other partners to put on panels. The YP have been interactive in that. We've had about 15 to 20 turnout per panel, which is great because there are people that wouldn't have went otherwise. And basically what we're trying to instill in them is these are your local government that's going to be making the decision that's going to govern where we live and where we work, and we need to get involved now so we do have a say. We had a town hall meeting Wednesday evening with WGAL. There were about 25 people there, almost all over the age of 70. Nothing wrong with that. The YP was not aware of it ahead of time, or else we would have advertised it and gotten some of our members there. But it's just those local things that are happening that we're trying to find out about ahead of time and be more involved with to give our members the opportunity to have an impact in our local government.
Yeah, and there's obviously going to be some things that they do that could have an impact on some of the things we talked about earlier with the retention. I mean, you're talking about what's bringing people here, but there's got to be some concerns about what could drive young professionals away from this area, depending on what your local or county or state, federal, I mean, at any level, but more specifically your local governments, what they could do that might slow things down a little bit. This momentum we've been all building in our communities, and you guys are all seeing with the growth in your organizations, you could go the other way depending on what they do. So how do you
Sorry, I feel like I consider myself really lucky to be in Lebanon with the Lebanon Valley Young Professionals and the Chamber at this time, because all of the townships, and especially Lebanon City, are engaged in studies and proper research and in bringing people in who are going to open up businesses, engage in urban renewal. There's a huge cry for people and township officials, mayors who are interested in making their own little town and the cities look better and have businesses. And so there's a tremendous amount of unity that exists among the businesses and the local governments in order to create community. And that involves, being multicultural and hosting multicultural events that actually reflect the needs of the various wonderful cultures that inhabit the Lebanon Valley. So, it's a good time, at least for us, because there's a lot of unison. We're all operating like that.
Okay. All right. Just one final question. Just everybody, give me your take on 5 years from now. I mean, what does your organization look like in terms of its size or its impact on your communities? You're already having a lot of impact by getting folks involved and working on projects that you work on, raising money, doing a lot of things to support the businesses that are popping up because you're here. So 5 years from now, what kind of impact do the YP groups in this room have on Central Pennsylvania?
I'm really encouraged by just being here with you guys today, because I think it's really exciting to see that what we're doing in Harrisburg, you guys are also doing in your communities, and all that means is that we're creating a stronger Central PA. And if the region's stronger, then each of us is strong as well. I think that 5 years from now, we're really involved with some projects that we won't see the fruits of our current board's labor until 5 years from now. We're involved in a project at Market Square, and we're really looking to do some redesign there to make it a little bit more, we talked about urban living and walkability and all those things. And we know that the YPs, it's our view and our vision that people want to hear from. And so if we can get involved in those projects and be the driver of those projects, we're happy to do that given our capacity. And with new staff, we have a little bit more room to do that. So Market Square, we're going to see some things happening there. We're also looking to bring bike share to Harrisburg, which is a program at a lot of other cities, bigger cities. And so we recently had a town hall meeting on the bike share and tried to get a gauge in the community as to whether or not we wanted this. And we had 100 people there, and everyone was, yes, what can we do? And it's really cool to get a group of people that aren't necessarily HYP people, but just the community, and see that there is a bigger push for some things that the region wants. And so bike share is something we hope will be coming online in the next 5 years. From HYP as a whole, I think we're just going to continue to grow. We're not going to do the membership drive or anything like that. We're going to grow organically like we've done, but we're going to do that by continuing to do our mission-based programming. And each event that we host annually, we just try to make it better than the previous year and make sure that it has a direct and tangible benefit to the community, whether it be an economic development driver or something like Home in the City where we're helping our members out.
Over the next 5 years, we'd like to see Lancaster Young Professionals grow, of course. I'm sure we'd all like to grow. We're taking our first steps this year towards formal partnerships with the universities and colleges in the area to show them what we have to offer to their young professionals in terms of mentorship and education, but also to give those graduating seniors a network of people that they already have in Lancaster, so those graduating seniors, as they graduate, stay in Lancaster as opposed to moving on and causing brain drain within Lancaster. So we're taking the first steps towards that. I think in 5 years that'll be a huge driver for growth for the organization and a stickiness factor for the community. We also are taking initial steps now to engage the daytime business community and the daytime business professionals that maybe aren't coming out because they leave work at night to go home with their families. So we want to build some more programming around attracting them to come out during the day for lunch and learns or breakfast networking events or things like that. Both of those things I think are going to really help grow organically as opposed to, like you said, doing a membership drive. Although I think a membership drive for our community is important. We've been focusing on having our members think about why. Like, why are they in Lancaster? Why are they part of LYP? And being mindful of that. So once we get a good pulse on helping them get a good pulse on why and helping our group get a good pulse on why, we want to share that with the community and let them know why, so people are thinking, Lancaster's not just cool, but this is really why I'm here in Lancaster and I love Lancaster. So.
Well, of course, we want to grow too. We're still in our first year, but we're really working on making sure we have quality programming. The rest of this year, instituting solid structure so that when we do hit this huge blow up of membership, we have the structure in place that we're a solid nonprofit and we can grow wisely. And then the next phase, sustainability, of course, because that's definitely a different approach than when you're in your infancy and trying to growing an organization. 10 years from now, we really hope that our current board, our current members, turn into the next wave of chamber members, are the next members on our advisory board, and they start businesses of their own. They grow businesses, and they just help encourage the growth and in Cumberland County, and to see it economically thrive.
I think the next 5 years are going to be tremendously exciting for the Lebanon Valley, and I think that the young professionals really they're at the heart of that because they're all very motivated, they're all very progressive, and they're interested in opening dialogues that previously have not been engaged in. And I think that we will grow. The only way to grow in the Lebanon Valley really is organically because people want to have that person-to-person communication. But I think that we'll see the young professionals opening businesses, but really investing in the communities where they live and helping to beautify, to strengthen, and to grow them.
With York YP's recent focus on the socials, I think it's a little bit more unique and trying to focus on that quality program as I think we're all focused on. It will organically grow, but as I mentioned earlier, we do have a wave of millennials coming through, but we have a millennial challenge of the opportunities that are out there, and that there are other options for young professional groups, which I think is great for us. It raises the bar, it gets us focused, and we know that we need to provide the programming and be the YP group that they need to be a part of. So big upswing, but it's a lot of fun to come.
Carlisle definitely will continue to grow. I have no doubts about that. We just partnered in January, which I had mentioned, with the Shippensburg Chamber to kind of grow down more that way. And then we also have been talking to, the West Shore Chamber and hopefully the West Shore Young Professionals after this to kind of be able to get more of a YP community too. I mean, we're all in the same local region, and we're not going to do every event together, but I would like to see more joint events and more regional events. We just had one at the Hershey Vineyard that went very well, but we didn't have a great turnout of our members, and our members that did go, your natural reaction is to talk to the people that you know. So just to build some more collaboration between the YP groups and to allow Carlisle to develop a little more as a, focus on the leadership and on the development and make Carlisle a better place in general.
Thank you all for being here this morning, and thank you for viewing.